Hi, my name's Ellie, and we're going to do a review of Scott Westerfield's Uglies, Pretties, and Special series.
Welcome back to Book Love. This is Ember and Ellie, and as Ellie mentioned, we're going to be talking about the book series by Scott Westerfield, Uglies, Pretties, and Specials. We won't really be talking about extras because Ellie hasn't read that yet, but we'll be talking about the first 3 books that are in this series. This is a young adult dystopian series, and in one of the books it actually says for ages 12 and up, so if that's helpful. So first let's start with Uglies. Ellie's gonna kind of summarize this a little bit for us.
Okay, so about Uglies, this is Tally, and she lives in a world where everybody's really pretty and they're perfect, but anybody who's normal is ugly. Her friend runs away, and she has a life or death decision to follow her friend and not become a pretty and stay ugly forever, or to become a pretty.
So as Ellie was saying, in this book, the main character is Tally, and she is about to turn 16. In her world, when you turn 16, everyone gets an operation that makes them supermodel, drop dead, perfect, gorgeous. And so that's what Tally's been wanting for her whole life. And she meets a new friend after all of her other friends have already turned and had the operation. She meets a new friend named Shay. Shay kind of has some different ideas about turning pretty, and that kind of leads to the adventure of the story. As Ellie mentioned, Tally has to decide if she's going to follow Shay or if she's going to stick with her lifetime goal of becoming pretty. So another important thing to say about Uglies is that Tally leaves the city to follow Shay, and she meets some people who lived outside of the cities and never turned pretty, and that is something she never knew was even existed. So it's a very interesting read about kind of our self-perception, what we think about ourselves. I think these books are really fun and easy to read. They have a lot of good characterization. The writing is very easy to follow with, and the characters are engaging as far as, like, they're pretty accessible, wouldn't you say, Ellie? Like, you can understand where they're coming from, and their motivations seem pretty clear, and it's easy to get to know them.
Like, once you get into the books, like, Tally becomes your best friend, and Shay and everybody in the every character in the book becomes your best friend, and you just want to read and be with them so much more.
Anything else you want to say about this book?
Let's move on.
Okay, before we move on to the next book in the series, I do want to say that talking about a second book in a series probably will spoil some things about the first book. So if you have not read these books, I recommend that you just stop the video now and go ahead and read number 1, and then you can come back to this video later. We'll try not to do too spoilery, but we probably will give away things that happen in this book because they lead to what's going on in the next book. So just a fair warning, we're gonna go on to book number 2.
Okay, again, Tally. She has become a pretty, like it says on the cover. She has a perfect world. She feels perfect, but what could be wrong with that? Nothing. But everything is. You're just kind of controlled, and you're so mellow, and everything you do is controlled by these people.
So in Pretties, Tally has become pretty. Her dream come true, but at the end of book number 1, she finds out that being pretty isn't everything that they make it seem, right? Not only do they physically change your body in the pretty operation, they also change your mind. And so Tally volunteers to become a pretty so that David's mom and the Smokies can try to make a cure for being pretty-minded, is what they call it. So in this book, we begin with Tally being pretty. She doesn't really have a lot of memories about what happened before, or the memories that she does have are a little bit distorted and a little bit missing. Yeah, foggy. So, anyway, it's very interesting to see her progress through this story, working through those things. Pretty quick, she meets a cute boy, an incredibly handsome boy, completely gorgeous, right? Because all of the pretties are. And his name is Zane. I think Zane is my favorite character in this book. What do you think? Do you have a favorite character?
Not really. I love everybody.
Do you have a character that you don't love?
No.
Well, the bad guys in the books are the special circumstance.
Wait, actually, yes, I do have someone that I hate in this book. Well, in this series.
Okay.
The doctor person.
Dr. Cable?
Girl. Yeah, Dr. Cable. I hate her so much.
So why don't you like Dr.
Specials.
Cable, Ellie?
She's mean, and she's creepy. That's
Okay.
really all. Until here, then I love her.
Dr. Cable is in the special circumstance. She's the leader of the special circumstance division, and they are pretty creepy. Their teeth are like ground into points, and they're made to look beautiful, but like scary, like they call them cruel pretties. So she's definitely a protagonist in the stories. I'm sorry. She's definitely an antagonist in the stories, kind of manipulating and forcing Tally and Shay to kind of do these things and make these decisions that they really don't want to.
And Tally, she describes her as like sharp, like she's beautiful, but all her features are like sharp and ragged and like scary, like something you would see, like the scariest costume you would see for Halloween or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she describes it.
Like a wolf, they say.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite part of this book, Ellie?
Oh, I know. This might be a little spoiler of what happens in the book.
So listen at your own risk for the next moment.
So when they like pour the alcohol or something on the ice and then they fall, that part was super cool. And how it describes it sounds so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just love to do that, but it would be scary too.
Yeah. After Tally meets Zane, she joins a group of pretties. They have all different kinds of cliques, and he's the leader of a clique called the Crims, and their whole goal is to be very tricky, doing lots of tricks and kind of mischievous
And
pranks
bubbly.
and stuff like that. So
Bubbly.
I like the Crims, and like I said, Zane is my favorite character in this book. Other than like Tally, I like her, but I think I like Zane even more, and I wish he had more time in this book and the next book. I think we're ready to move on to book number 3.
Dun 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 dun.
Are you gonna tell us about it?
Yes. Specials. Again, this is Tally. She looks weird in every single book.
She does look different in every cover. Like you can see how she's progressing. Okay, so what do you have to say?
Okay, so in specials, again, in the name it says what happens pretty much in the beginning of the book. She becomes a special. Nah. She becomes special, and the specials, again, very creepy, they are trying to keep the city from going back to the Rusty Age, where nobody becomes pretty-minded, everybody's normal, like us. And so they try to keep that all under control. And she's part of a special group led by Shay, which is, again, I think the most creepiest group in the specials.
They are creepy.
They cut themselves, and then how they describe it.
They're called cutters,
and
Ellie said, yeah.
They cut themselves, and then they say everything's as sharp as ice, and you can see everything so crisp and clear. Like, if you have glasses, and then you need new ones, and then you put on your new glasses, everything looks so sharp. That's kind of how I think of how they describe it when they cut themselves, and that's creepy to me.
Yeah, so if you, if you know someone, or if you yourself, like, cut or self-harm, you might either trigger or have some identifying things with these people. As Ellie was saying, they use that to kind of give them a rush and help them just have that adrenaline and clarify their minds. Again, with the specials, special circumstance basically just wants to control everything. Dr. Cable thinks she's right, and she wants everyone to be on board with her opinion. And so Shay and Tally are just a division of that. Once again, in this book, Tally's had a new operation. Her body's completely different, and also it has affected her mind and the way she thinks. So it's very interesting in these books, the idea of self-identify, how we think of our own selves and how we make our decisions. Eventually, in all 3 books, Tally kind of comes back to her real self in a way, and that's usually triggered by being out in nature, which is very interesting. She says nature doesn't need an operation to be beautiful, it just is, to be pretty. So this is definitely a very action-packed book, as far as, like, kind of seems to be the climax or ending of this trilogy. Is there any part of this book that you didn't like, Ellie?
No, but I have a question for you.
Okay.
What was your favorite part about this book?
My favorite part about this book, I think, is just actually the special operation. I really don't like they have, like, pointed teeth, as I mentioned, and their fingernails are like sharp jabbies. I hate long fingernails, and I hate sharp jabby fingernails, so I don't like those things. But everything else about their bodies is amazing, like the way they can see. They have these things called skin Tannaz, where they can, like, speak, they, like, can talk really quiet or sub-vocal, and there are other people on their same channel in their group, in their I almost said crims, in the Cutters group, can all hear them, or they can play music through it. They can eat any organic thing and live that way.
They can eat leaves, and they can
bark
still
from
live.
Trees. Yeah, anything.
They can eat anything.
And their bodies heal super fast. So my favorite part is just that. Like, that would be really cool. I'd almost be signed up. I don't know if I'd want to be in special circumstance, but I do think that
I would
their
actually
operation
really
is
like
cool.
that. Minus the teeth and the fingernails. I would, if we could sign up to be like this, I'd be the first person to sign up on that list.
As long as you don't have the part where it affects your brain, because that part really sucks.
Yeah. Also, what my favorite part about this book is where Dr. Cable apologizes. That just blows my mind. How does someone so cruel be able to apologize to someone so pure like Tally? Well, not very pure anymore, but she was pure. Also, Dr. Cable, I think she's my favorite part about that book. Not any other books, but this book. This book only. Because she's actually, like, once you kind of get to know her in this book, she's actually sounds kind of kind to her specials.
Well, at first, like, part of being a special is that they make you think you're superior to everyone else. It's part of the mental changes. So it's not that she is kind to her specials, it's just that she thinks they're the only creatures in the world that are worthy of living, basically. All the normal people are not, they're below, they're subhuman almost. She just the only people that matter to her are the specials, and everyone else is just like sheep that she has to take care of.
She sounds so kind to them. I mean, that just touches my heart. How evil she is, but how kind she is to the specials.
So another cool thing that I wanted to bring up about these books is the language. I sort of talked about just being easy to read. In these books, Scott Westerfield really has a lingo, a lot of like slang kind of that his world uses, and I really appreciate that because I feel like it gives you such a full feeling of a real developed world. So the world building I think is really awesome. And actually, we found this little book at the thrift store. I love the thrift store, which is called Bogus to Bubbly. So in it, he has a section, this is kind of all like a behind the scenes, the making of this trilogy. It's very interesting. It has maps in it. I'll try to show you one. Drawings of a hoverboard. There's maps of Tally City. He kind of talks about where the idea came from, and also about the language, like the slang, as I'm saying. They use the word bubbly a lot. It could mean several different things. Bogus. Most of those things are very easy. But it's kind of funny because when you read these books, they talk about something being pretty making or nervous making or something like that. After I've read the books, then I find myself trying to use those terms and those slangs, which I know always means that I was really immersed into this story. Ellie found the map of Tally City, so that's one of them. There's a couple in here. So yeah, I think the slang definitely adds, just the specialized vocabulary just adds to the enjoyment and the fullness of the book. So I do just want to give a little quick plug for the 4th book in this series. It's called Extras. It follows a different character, but Tally and Shay are in this book, and David are in this book as well. So even though it's set 3 years after Uglies, Pretties, and Specials ends, but those characters do come back, and they are in this book. So I definitely recommend, if you enjoy the first 3, that you give this a try. It's very interesting, and it's definitely keeps building. I like that you are in a different city in the world, and so you can kind of see a different way that this pretty culture is portrayed, and it's pretty cool. There's a lot too in this story that reminds me of YouTube, because the people in this city that Aya lives in, they all have a feed, which reminded me of YouTube channel or our Facebook feeds or Instagram feeds, where they kind of post things about and put videos and do whatever about their lives. So it's definitely a commentary to me on just how our society is in a lot of ways. So give that a try for sure, especially if you've enjoyed the first 3. If you haven't read the first 3, I would not read this yet. I would read those first for sure. So now we're going to do kind of a rating system. We have a couple categories for mom and daughter rating that we're going to go over with Uglies, Pretties, and Specials. So the first is just the subject and the content of the book. So I feel like this is, I mean, Ellie's 9 and she read these books, and I definitely don't feel like there is any content in them that would make me uncomfortable to have her read them. So I think it depends on the age of your child.
A little bit uncomfortable for me to read them because there's a couple of swear words.
Okay, we're going to get to the swear words in a second. So I think it depends on the maturity of your own child and their reading level, but I don't feel like there's any really like content that's questionable in these books, aside for the cutting that we kind of mentioned. But they go about it and mention it in a way that, to me, still I wasn't worried about Ellie reading about that. And if she has any questions, all my kids know this, they can just come to me and we can talk about it in more detail. So sometimes books are a great way to open a door to conversation that I maybe never would have just thought of approaching just out of the blue. Alright, so the next category is like sexual content, and there really isn't any in this book. There is a couple scenes where they kiss, but that's really it. Again, very comfortable 9-year-old, or, you know, depending on their maturity level.
They know
not anything that they wouldn't see on a PG movie or a PG-13 movie. Right. So now we're going to talk about language as far as profanity and swearing. Ellie?
There is a couple swear words. Yeah, there is.
There's like just 1 or 2 very minor swear words, so Again, Ellie mentioned it because she's very hyper aware of those things, but it's just like not necessarily a big deal. I told her to just in her mind skip over those if they're an issue. It's not like, I would say definitely PG-13 again, rating sort of a thing. Here or there, you know, maybe you said hell, I believe, or damn. That's it.
Yeah, those are the two only swear words that they have said in those books.
Okay, so perfect. So that's it for our review of Uglies, Pretties, and Specials. I hope it was interesting to hear about Ellie and me talking about these books together, and hopefully if any of your kids want to read them, I definitely recommend it. And for adults, also very, very interesting and very, very enjoyable books to read. So I definitely recommend those to you as well. If you have any questions about these books you want answered, feel free to leave a comment below. We will go ahead and answer those to the best of our abilities. And if you have read these books and loved them or hated them, I totally would love to talk to you about those. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye-bye.